Hey everyone, I don't know about you, but I'm ready for some coffee. My favorite spot, because of the people, because of the coffee beans, all the good stuff, is Cafe 211 in Bentonville. If you're not in the Northwest Arkansas area, though, Cafe 211 also offers their beans and their coffee mugs deliverable, I think, nationwide. So you can create that whole experience from your home. Mauricio Guerrero is the founder of Cafe 211. He is from Guatemala and his coffee is from Guatemala as well. There's a beautiful story that's tied to it. I encourage you to check out the Cafe 211 website, check out Mauricio's story, the story of the coffee and the people who make it, and go ahead and buy some and we can sip it together during our next conversation. And you can use the discount code Cara Elvira 10 to get a 10% discount on your order. Hey Roxy, how are you doing today?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. We're in this beautiful space, Cafe 211 in Bentonville. It's our first in-person interview, so it's a privilege to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm trying to caffeine up.
Caffeine up.
Yeah, get through the interview, but yeah.
But we got this. It's early on a Friday morning. I've got my Americano on the floor next to me. And you just got back from a trip, right?
I did, yeah. I just got back from a week in Phoenix, which was great. It's already very, very hot there. Definitely don't need
the sweater.
But yeah, so I got back a couple days ago and kind of recuperating from that and some birthday celebrations. But yeah, I'm about to get back into working, into painting.
Well, happy belated birthday. I feel like travel is on a lot of our minds right now with the vaccines happening. We're both vaccinated, which is why we can be here without our masks. Do you have any recommendations for when people travel to Phoenix?
So hands down, my favorite thing, I did the hot air balloon ride.
Oh my goodness.
It's been like a bucket list thing for me for a while. I don't really consider myself to have a bucket list, but if I did, that's
that
on
would
there.
Be on it.
And I loved it. It was such an amazing experience. I would recommend that. The garden's beautiful. Like honestly, like food, it just all the food and drinks and stuff there are phenomenal, and maybe just like find a really good lookout point to watch the sunset. Those would probably be my limited Phoenix recommendations.
You're reading my mind though. I was just going to ask you, did you see any sunrises, any sunsets? Because I think that landscape is just so unlike anything on this coast or in this region.
Oh no, it definitely is. I got to see the sunrise on the hot air balloon because we had to get out there at 4:30 in the morning, and so I got to see that sunrise. It was beautiful though, and then caught a nice sunrise out on the lookout point. Overlooking the city, and that was fun.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm so glad it was a nice trip, and it sounds like a pretty epic way to ring in a new year of life. So that's wonderful. But I'm glad you made it back safely, that we get to be here today. And so Roxy is a local muralist, artist of all different sorts, and your story is really cool, so I can't wait to dive into it.
Cool. Let's do it.
Let's start with where you began. Did you grow up in this area?
So I did grow up here 3 to 15, and then moved overseas and finished the rest of high school living in New Delhi, India, going to the embassy school there. And then I immediately went to Savannah, Georgia to do my undergraduate degree at SCAD, and then out to San Francisco to do my master's. And I've been back for almost 5 years now in Northwest Arkansas.
That's amazing. We speak with Mauricio, as the owner of this coffee shop, about what it means to just experience different places in our lives and how it shapes us. I think especially that leap from Arkansas to New Delhi must have been wow. Can you speak to that a little bit?
It was definitely like a mind-bending experience for me. It was obviously complete culture shock, and I'd say that whenever I was living here, it was obviously much different than it is now, but also I definitely had a pretty sheltered life. I went to an extremely small private Christian school and like had a very, I don't know, I would almost say culty, like kind of experience with that. And like, it was completely out of my world. But it was awesome. It was like such a great way for me to like open my mind and expand my horizon and just to see how other people live their lives. And being like 15, 16, 17 when that was happening, it was like a really like important time when you're like developing your worldview and stuff. And so I think that definitely like helped to shape me into a better person, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that story. I think you're so right about that age being so pivotal.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
for opening like your mind to things. I'm in school for social work right now, and I'm thinking about what internship I want to do for my next year. And I'm really actually drawn to that high school group because I feel like your mind is so open to the world and like shifts in your perspectives, and like that's super exciting.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So you went back to the U.S. You were in Savannah first.
Yeah. So I did college in Savannah. I was there for 4 or 5 years, and I did not intend to go to Savannah originally. I wanted to go to New York, and I wanted to be like in a cool art school there. But I ended up like having a good experience in going to SCAD and in Savannah.
Savannah is such an interesting. I've only spent one night in Savannah. Actually, when I was moving to Arkansas, my sister and I kind of went out of the way because we wanted to stay in that city. And like the architecture is so distinctive, and just the whole
definitely
scene.
Yeah, like the whole historic areas. It's just got that like old Southern charm, I guess, that people kind of envision, and like the mossy trees and all of that.
Yes,
so it is pretty. It's it's an interesting place.
And they have I think the Forrest Gump like bench or something. I remember seeking that out.
I don't think I ever went to that.
You got to go back then. So no, that was a really special city, but even if it wasn't where you intended. And then you went to San Francisco instead of New York. Like, did you try to go to New York again, or like change your mind?
No, I actually didn't try to go. Like whenever I applied to go to grad school, I didn't even apply anywhere in New York. I think in my mind I was like, I've never been out to the West Coast, and I like just want to see what that's like. Like I want to completely change like what I've thought about things so far, like having a mostly just Southern experience.
Yes.
And so I like made the choice to just go to San Francisco, and that was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think it was like a good experience for me. Like especially, I don't know, doing your undergraduate degree when you're doing fine art, you're like learning all of the technical things that you need to know, and like but then once you switch over to do your master's, you're no longer learning like technical. You're really just like, it's all about the theory and the thoughts behind it and stuff. And so I think going to San Francisco is like a place where people are really trying to like think about stuff, and like it has like that long history, and it was and it's also a beautiful city.
So beautiful.
Aside from the price, but
oh my gosh, like astronomical. Since like Silicon Valley's been there, I guess, because I hear like old San Francisco was totally different.
I guess
that
so.
tech bubble
situation. I definitely like went in at a time where it had already been like altered, but I still had a good experience. But I can definitely see the issues that like big tech like brought to the area.
Yes.
So I don't know. Hopefully that bubble's gonna burst at some point. I don't really know.
All the bubbles tend to, so I'm sure we can bank on that at some point. But I think it was really brave and cool how you chose you're like, what's the most different thing I can pursue versus the South? Because even as a New Yorker, San Francisco blows my mind. It's just like so vibrant, but also just like the perspectives are mind blowing, and it's a little bit of an adjustment. Like I consider myself pretty like with the times and like hip and like hippie-ish, but San Francisco takes it to a whole new level, and it is
for sure. But there's really, you can kind of, I don't know, be whoever you want to be there and find whatever it is that you're looking for. It's just a super open-minded place to whatever you want to do. That's what I like about
Truly.
it. But
I think that's very accurate. So clearly, when you were in Savannah and San Francisco, art was already part of your life. But when did that interest emerge? Was it always with you?
Yeah, I would say that art making has always been a part of me. Like a desire that I like had to express in some way. I didn't get to start taking art classes really though until I was in high school. Like I definitely did stuff on my own, like at home, and was always very like creative and like found ways to like do stuff. And obviously like my mom is like supportive and like being creative and that kind of thing. But yeah, I didn't take any actual art classes until I was like in later on in high school, and so then I just kind of like went full force with it and was like, oh yeah, no, I'm actually like feel like I'm decent. So
like, this is my thing.
I'm gonna do it.
This is what I'm gonna pursue. So nice to have an idea of what your direction. I feel like I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still figuring out a lot of things. Like, it's obviously there's not a clear cut path when you're trying to be an artist.
Right.
Like, you just kind of have to go with what the universe is giving you. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now. It's just taking different opportunities and doing several different things in hopes that it kind of all comes together.
Right. But I think that's a skill within itself. Like, I mean, to lean into what the universe is like suggesting, it also takes bravery and like willingness to just like see where it goes, basically, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, not a lot of people feel comfortable doing that. Like, you kind of have to be open to just like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm just kind of like, this is working today. And yeah, it is a little bit scary.
A little bit scary. A lot of it's scary maybe, but at the same time introduces us to so many cool projects and people like you. I'm really excited that we get to know each other through this. So comes full circle. So I want to talk a little bit about your aesthetic and like how that came to be. For me, like I went to school at NYU, and so like the location, like the setting which I was with was really influential to how I see the world and things like that. You describe your work as like flashy, fluorescent, over the top, but there being like this joy that leads to like actually more awareness and like different feelings.
Yeah, so definitely like all of I wouldn't say that my public art is quite there yet. I'm still sort of figuring out how to like bridge that gap, but all of my like paintings on canvas and like some installations that I've done like in the past, like I try to I am very much drawn to that kind of like glitzy just a way. I'm trying to like figure out a way to like draw in a certain audience with like something that makes you feel nostalgic almost, and then it kind of is like, wait, what is actually happening here? Like, I feel like there's kind of a more somber sort of like undertone, and yeah, I'm not sure like how much I like want to give away with that, but like
No, I think that's a really great way to lead people into the experience and frame it up for them. I think that's really interesting how nostalgia is paired with like this somberness. I think it's like maybe like a truth for humans. Like, we look back on things with such a different perspective than we had in the moment. Like, I found myself even in the last few weeks, like, oh, I missed like in March last year where I'd like go on walks by myself and have like solitude. Like, no, that was a terrible time. Like, the world was ending. Like, I don't really miss that, but I feel right now like I do. And so like, I think the nostalgia and like realizing that we kind of like overlook the reality of it sometimes is really powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
So you also talk about this desire for a shared emotional experience with your work. Can you speak a little bit about why that matters?
I mean, I think with like a lot of art making, it really is like the artist trying to find their audience and like find people that like connect with their work. I think the like public art side is a little bit different, but I could say you have to go a little bit more broad, at least in my mind. But yeah, so like I'm definitely trying to find my audience, or I'm putting the work out there and just letting my audience find the work that speaks to them. And like definitely a lot of the like portraiture that I do is not for everyone. Like it's not something that someone's necessarily just going to be like, oh yes, I want that on my wall. Like, and that's totally fine with me. Like I really am just trying to find like my niche for people that like look at it and they're like, oh yes, like I understand that there's like something darker happening here, even though it's a pretty like portrait of like a woman and like flowers, and it's pink and it's sparkly and it's like that. Like yeah, I definitely want to connect with people, but like maybe not everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to realize too. I mean, and you talk about like themes of being a woman and stuff like that. I feel like sometimes as a woman, like I do want to please everybody, like, and that is like a real like urge. And then to scale it back and be like, no, like I have a personal like story and a mission and a message, and it doesn't need to serve everybody.
Which I'm definitely, like I said, trying to bridge that gap with like my public work. Right now I'm trying, like I'm still fairly new to mural making, and like definitely want to continue with that, but like you do kind of have to expand like who does this like speak to, or like who can understand it, because it is like out there in the public sphere, and people are going to like all different types of people are going to encounter it and experience it like on their own, in their own way, or on their own level. So I'm trying to figure out how to like connect the two worlds of like you know, super accessible and then like not as accessible, and how can I like marry those two things together to make like, I don't know, perfect union. But. Yeah,
so I think that is really interesting how you not transitioned, but like expanded maybe your repertoire. Yeah. How did you decide to do that, or like was there an opportunity that came about? What was that journey like?
It definitely was just kind of handed to me. I like made a contact at a gallery show, and was basically just like asked like, would you want to, you know, do a mural? And I was like, sure, why not? Like, I'll try it. I haven't really worked super. I work like fairly large scale, but like not you know, mural size large scale. So it's still like a learning process for me, like trying to figure out, you know, exactly the right way to do everything. But yeah, it was definitely just sort of a random like kind of fluke thing that I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. We'll see how it goes.
Wow. So when you were in school, like murals were nowhere on your mind.
No.
Like you didn't learn any technical stuff.
I mean, I took like large scale painting classes, like where I think the biggest thing I had to do was like I made like an 8x10 canvas and like stretched it and like painted on that. But that's about it.
A bit different than like...
there wasn't like a mural class, like here's, you know, how you like scale up on a 40-foot wall, and here's like, you know, the right types of paint that you need, or like brushes or spray paint or whatever. So yeah, it's all just kind of like figuring out, and like luckily I've been able to have people help me who are more experienced, and then I've also got to like help other people who are more experienced and get to learn from them, all things that I can take back and put into my own work, and yeah.
Oh, I love that. We speak a lot in these conversations about like the connectedness and like the collaborative energy in the art world, and I think that's so encouraging when people like learning from others and then passing it on is so important. And I think it especially comes together really well in Northwest Arkansas.
Definitely.
Oh my gosh.
There's all kinds of opportunities here, and I feel like since it is such a small like connected space, like it's pretty easy to find like what you need or like who you need to help you, and yeah, most people are like super willing to, you know, do what they can.
Yes,
it's nice.
it's so nice, and that's how we're in the space we're in. That's how I'm with you. So I love benefiting from that. I'd love to dive a little bit more into what those partnerships meant for you. So you were in this gallery, the opportunity came about, you're like, I don't know how to do this, but like absolutely yes. Yeah. Where did you go from there?
So I did my first like just small project, which is like it's one of the ones that's over behind Peddler's Pub with all of the other pieces.
Yes.
if you've been over there.
It's a great little like mural garden.
Yeah, so I have like my first piece over there, and then that turned into getting the piece like over next to 21C. Yeah, like my connections with like the guys from like Runway. I don't even
one of those groups.
Well, no, it is that group. I don't know how much I am like supposed to be giving out, like how much information. But yeah, so I like had that connection, and they hooked me up with doing that mural over there, and then which, yeah, it was like a really quick kind of turnaround time. It was like, okay, we have like 1 week, and like come up with the design, and then like we'll have somebody help you, and so yeah, it was like that was definitely like probably the biggest like learning experience as far as like how to do stuff, how quickly it needs to get done, like working in weather, and like, you know, having to work around like rain and like it being really hot and that kind of thing. And then my most recent project that I did was like the one out in Springdale, which I did through the like Downtown Springdale Alliance. They have like a new mural grant program that they just started it, and so yeah, they have like a bunch of murals going up down there, and I got selected to do one, and yeah, I've like worked with a couple like through Ozart. I've gotten to like help with some other very established artists like who are doing murals in the area. I've got to work on some of those projects with them, and that is like awesome. Like that is like where I've learned a lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like an incredible learning opportunity. And I went to Springdale a couple days ago, and I mean the public art scene is just
yeah,
so
no,
cool.
They're really trying to grow and expand it, and like I think, you know, get Springdale up to being like a cool, funky town, which is awesome. Like hopefully that'll continue. I think it will.
Yeah, it's so impactful. I was like the American Council for the Arts, or maybe it's called something different, but there's like federal funding for the arts in our country, and they talked about like just tracing the economic impact of art in different communities. And so someone will come out of town, like they'll buy gas to get to the destination, and that costs money, and they'll buy a lunch when they get there, and they'll like do all these activities in the town because they were drawn there because of the art. And I think that's a really great strategy. It's so exciting to see how the downtown like Springdale groups are making that happen. When you so you received the grant funding to create that project, did you have to pitch a vision for it? What was that like?
Yeah, so it was an application process. I like, you know, submitted a design, like my initial design proposal, and then, you know, kind of like answered a bunch of questions related to that. And then they kind of came back with like, oh, well, we have a like a local business owner who we think would be like a good matchup. And so I met with him, and he kind of told me a little bit about like what he was totally down with like my design and everything, that his wall was a lot bigger than I was like expecting. And so I was like, okay, well, we can like add in some stuff. And he just had like a few little things that he wanted incorporated that were like personal for his family. So like in that Springdale mural, there's like a little tiny rainbow, which like it's not raining or anything, but so that's just kind of like a little symbol in there, which is significant for like the building owner's family. And but yeah, so we resubmitted. I like worked up the new design, resubmitted it, and then they were like, great, okay, you can get started.
That's amazing. And I think it's so, I hadn't realized before we talked earlier that it was like this collaborative thing with the business whose wall it was going to be displayed on.
Mm-hmm.
That's really powerful.
Yeah, so they were trying to, like with the grant program, like they were definitely trying to have business owners that had a wall available who wanted a mural, like reach out and be like a part of that program. So yeah, it worked out really well, and I think that they were super happy with how the project turned out too.
Yes, I think we're all super happy with it. It's so nice to look at, and there's such a beautiful story behind it. It makes me think about like the social responsibility tied to public art, and like usually I would think about that in terms of like the members of the community, but here it was also like the shop owner and responsibility to like honoring them in the work. How much does that come into play in the design process for public art?
It probably really depends on the artist specifically. Like, I am totally down to, like, if I'm doing a commission piece, like, hear what somebody has, and if I can incorporate, you know, a little piece, like, for them, I'm down to do that. I think, like, in general, though, it's you're still trying to get your vision across and your message, and then hope that it, like, speaks to the large audience of people who are gonna just randomly pass by and see it and, like, be like, oh, that's cool, like, what's that, like, yeah.
No, I think that's a great way of describing it. And you spoke too about this recent collaboration you did with, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the little fly there, of the artist who came from out of town to work on
Rejoicy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear more about that, and about, like, what the collaboration, like, taught you, or any challenge to it, because I think when you are used to working by yourself and then you are two people come together with creative minds, like, it just seems really interesting.
So that was, like, yeah, that's the most, like, recent thing that I've got to work on, and it was really just, like, somebody had sent me a message being, like, a screenshot of her story that she posted on Instagram saying that she was looking for, like, an assistant, that she was coming to the area, and so I was like, okay, like, I don't know if time-wise if it'll work out, because I'm, like, doing this other project, but that would be awesome, to, like, get to help her and, like, learn, because she's obviously, like, way more, you know, experienced and established than I am. But yeah, I, like, reached out to her and sent her kind of, like, a little, like, you know, about me and, like, photos of my work and stuff. Not really like a resume, but, like, you know, sort of. And she got back to me, and yeah, so I got to, like, we worked on that for about 10 days. It's a really big wall. It's, like, 28 feet tall by, like, 80 feet long or something. It's big, and yeah, it was really cool getting to just learn from her. I definitely, like, was not trying to, you know, have, like, that much input on that, because she, like, knows what she's doing, but yeah, like, the two of us together, like, we knocked it out. I feel like it was a good pairing of, like, that's not the style that I usually paint in, maybe more so on, like, smaller canvases and things, but yeah, it was fun to just, like, to be like, oh, okay, cool, like, I can paint, like, realistically on, like, a giant scale, and, like, just to see how that goes and stuff. But yeah, she was, like, super easy to work with, and I, like, felt like I learned a lot and stuff, and hopefully I'll get to help her out with some other things in the future. We'll see.
Wow. When I think about, like, people who maybe have never been here, and they hear your story about being in San Francisco and New Delhi and, like, around the world, I feel like one of their misconceptions might be to question, like, whether this town, it makes sense for you. Like, is this town holding you back or growing your, like, experience? And I'd love to hear more about, like, how you feel about that with those kind of partnerships under your belt.
So definitely, like, I never intended to move back to Arkansas. I was always like, nope, I'm never going to go back. It's not going to happen. And, like, I didn't live here for, like, 10 years. When I was in San Francisco, I finally just, like, hit a wall, like a financial and just an emotional wall. And I was like, I don't have any other option. Like, I'm just going to have to go back. And so for, like, the first year or two, I was, like, still very much like, nope, like, I'm gonna get my stuff together, and then I'm, like, getting out of here. I'm, like, gonna go back to, like, a bigger city, and then there really was just, like, kind of a shift, and honestly, like, I think even COVID happening, it altered that even more of, like, okay, wait, no, this actually is where I need to be. This is, like, the perfect place to be if you're trying to establish yourself. Like, as an artist or a creative or a person that wants to open a business, like, of any kind, really, like, I think that this is a great place because it is rapidly growing. There are people here who want to invest in art and in creative, like, outlets and that kind of thing. There's just, like, a real, like, interest and drive, and it is a smaller community, so you can like I said earlier, like find who you need to connect with in order to get things done. So yeah, like it's definitely not holding me back in any way. It's only like furthering my career, and I don't know if I plan to stay here forever, but I definitely think that like getting established here is my plan, and then then maybe I'll go on to somewhere else where I'm not having to like start fresh and start over. But yeah, I think it is a great place for creative people.
No, I completely agree. And like creative people in the broadest sense, like in any walk of life, if you have an idea, this is such a special place to grow it.
It's super nurturing. For a lot of different.
Oh, I think nurturing is like the perfect word for it. I'm gonna have to probably use that moving forward. For instance, like we have Rejoicy here today, and they made this whole production possible. I'm like, I have no skill in this department, and like, what a joy! And people believe in each other in this town, which I think is really special. Last time we spoke, you explained so we have this really cool restaurant, Preacher's Son, right? And under it's the Undercroft. The Undercroft, and that is one of your collaboration stories too. Can you speak a little bit to what that's about?
Yeah, so Undercroft, they've done a couple different pop-ups, like pop-up bar programs, and I have gotten to do all of the design work for those. So if anyone's been to Miracle, the Christmas pop-up, or Oasis, which is the most recent one that just finished, which was like a tropical kind of tiki style pop-up, I got to work on those. I bartended at Preacher's Son for like 4 years, and like basically since they opened, and so I just kind of had like that little in, and once I heard that they were gonna do the initial pop-up Miracle, and just like looking and seeing what other bars had done, I was like, I need to do this. Like, you guys have to let me design this. Like, that's basically like, that's my whole aesthetic, and I've always been very into like parties and party planning, and like and some of the installations that I've done in the past are like that very like just crazy kitschy kind of decor. And so I was like, you guys have to let me do this. And they did, which was cool. So I designed that. It was super successful. And then Oasis happened, and that was kind of, I had already quit working at Preacher's Son just so that I could like fully pursue my like art career. But yeah, they like reached back out, and obviously I'm still like friends with them over there, and they're like, hey, like we would love for you to design for this and source everything, and so that was super fun. Like I love doing that kind of thing. And it was a really successful pop-up. I think it just finished a few days ago, but I think there's maybe some more stuff
so you have to stay
in the future.
tuned.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that story for so many reasons. One of which is just like everyone who comes to town, I feel like when you're trying to show someone like the best of Bentonville, like they go to that restaurant and they go to that bar, and those are people from all over the world. And so like that's just putting you on the map in so many ways. And also I think it's, from like as an outsider, it seems a bit different than like the public art, like the mural work, like a different process. Entirely.
It totally is. Like I have definitely like these 3 different little like worlds that I'm like working on, and they all like intersect in a way. Like, but yeah, it is kind of interesting how like having just this like background of doing installation art, I felt like I was like easily able to translate that into, we want this like over the top design. It's more of like decor and, like interior decorating per se, like not so much art, but it still really is the same in that you're creating an experience for someone. Like it's all about like this like visual and like kind of emotional, just like type of experience that is supposed to be overwhelming. And so there's that connection with like installation art and doing the pop-ups and stuff, which is great.
I think it keeps life like exciting too, and like interesting. I fully believe that like the most epic creativity happens at those intersections. So for you to be able to have like another outlet for your mind,
different things, it'll be interesting to see like in the future how all of it ties together, if it does or not. It's like I'm not sure right now. I'm literally just I'm taking the opportunities that are presented to me, and I'm gonna figure out how to like make them all mesh together in the future. But yeah, it's cool.
That resonates with me. I think that's great, just to lean into what's happening. So I hope that people will get to listen and feel really inspired by what you're doing, because it's a lovely story. I wondered if you had any specific advice of like things you've learned so far that were like really helpful.
I guess just like really taking any opportunities that you can, and making like as many connections as you can with people. I'm definitely an introvert, so it can be hard for me. Like I feel like I'm coming to things like a little bit later, like than I would have liked to. But yeah, it really is just like making those connections with people, because you never know like when somebody's gonna be like, oh, like I know this person and you know this person, and like, oh, and I want this like mural done, or oh, hey, like I have this opportunity, because yeah, it's like it happens all the time. Like you just have to, I don't know, just put yourself out there and say yes to things. And
yes, I think the human relationship part of everything is like just so central to making it happen and growing personally and as a business, as a brand, or whatever you call it. I'd also like to ask you what you want people to walk away knowing about you and your work when they see it. What should they be thinking about?
It's a hard one for me. I guess I like haven't thought about that before. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's actually a hard one. I definitely have a lot of. I am planning to do a lot of stuff in the future, and I'm not really sure, honestly. I'm still trying to figure that out actually for myself, like what I want people to take away from me and the experience. But if they can get some sort of like joy, or like visual stimulation out of anything that I'm like creating, and it like makes them feel nostalgic or happy or maybe even sad, like but if it kind of resonates with them, then I feel like I'm accomplishing a little bit of what I'm like setting out to do. So
yeah, and I think that's a great purpose. I mean, so much of our life, if we just go with the momentum, is like almost numb, right? So to have a chance to like pause and think and feel something is just really beneficial to all of us, regardless of what the emotion is. So finally, our favorite question to end on is, what are you looking forward to, Roxy?
Honestly, really just seeing what this year is going to bring. This is the first year that I have like quit my day job to just pursue like full-time art making. I decided like, okay, I'm gonna do it. It's time. Like, gotta just figure it out. And so I'm kind of just letting things come to me, and so far it's like working out pretty well, and I don't want to like jinx it or anything, but yeah, I think I have some possible like projects coming soon, and so yeah, I'm just interested to see how those are gonna turn out, like how this first year is gonna go like the rest of my career.
What an exciting place to be in your life. I'm so eager to be part of the journey on social media and see what's happening. And Roxy, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure to learn your story. And thank you to Cafe 211 and Rejoicy and all the amazing people who made this first interview in person happen.